What is up guys, Jarv here, back today jumping into Destiny 2. We are back with This Week in Destiny, looking forward to the week ahead and everything that we can expect upon this week's weekly reset. So if you want to find out everything you need to know about the up and coming week, be sure to stick around and enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a comment and rating down below, and remember to subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. But without further delay guys, let's jump into the video. Another week and another weekly reset is upon us. We are entering week 2 of the Solstice of Heroes, with this free event continuing for at least another 3 weeks in Season of the Splicer. So if you still haven't completed your magnificent sets of armor or got that god roll of the Compass Rose shotgun, be sure to complete those objectives on those armor sets and hand in those Solstice packages before the end of the event on the 3rd of August. Now whilst we see the continuation of the Solstice of Heroes, we also get a brand new raid challenge in the Vault of Glass and a new Timelost weapon to get our hands onto. Now this week's challenge in the Vault of Glass is called Ensemble's Refrain, and every teleported player has to destroy at least one oracle in each wave of oracles during the Atheon encounter. It will involve the fire team having to rotate the relic holder inside the portals each time to ensure a unique oracle is destroyed by a different guardian throughout each phase. It's arguably slightly easier than last week's challenge, which involved the Gatekeeper, and it's looking like the Timelost weapon for this week is the Corrective Measure. Now the Corrective Measure has a curated roll of Dynamic Sway Reduction and Firefly as guaranteed perks, but it can also roll with things like Feeding Frenzy and Rewind Rounds, as well as One for All in the 4th column. Now machine guns are getting a buff inside PvE for Season 15, so it's a perfect opportunity to get a great roll ahead of what will be a substantial buff in the new season. Now it's important to remember that once you've unlocked your Timelost weapons, you can buy additional rolls and repurchase them from the final chest after defeating Atheon. Now additional weapons will cost you 25 Spores of Conquest and can only buy Timelost weapons that you've already unlocked. Now you will earn Spores of Conquest as you play through the raid, but you can earn more Spores of Conquest by either rerunning the raid or by farming out the Templar encounter, which is one of the easier and faster encounters in the raid itself. Now you can spend these on Corrective Measure this week, or if you want to save up and wait for Fatebringer, which is going to be in the final week of raid challenges, be sure to plan accordingly depending on the loot that you're chasing. So that's a quick look at what's new for this week. Now we're going to jump into the activities and what to expect upon this week's weekly reset. Now the override will rotate around to Europa, so if you're still working through the Path of the Splicer quests for the seasonal story, then be sure to visit the Splicer servitor over in the Helm and get those final pieces to the Path of the Splicer quest underway. Now as for the Nightfall this week, this will rotate around to the Inverted Spire, so the Grandmaster Nightfall will be the Inverted Spire as well. Now it was expected that the Adept weapon for last week would be the Azum RR4 sniper rifle, but as a result of Bungie introducing a 4th week for the Palindrome, Swarm and Shadow price, this reset the calendar and the way that the loot rotates week on week. So as a result, instead of getting the Azum RR4, we had the Plug 1 fusion rifle when the Fallen Saber Strike was in rotation. But for this week and the Inverted Spire, we'll see the Hung Jury return in rotation for the Adept weapons. So if you're still chasing down that absolute god roll like I am, then the Inverted Spire is a great opportunity to jump in and get that boss melt to get your hands on some sweet Adept loot. Now as for Crucible, the Crucible rotator will rotate around to Clash this week, so Team Deathmatch is back. Why this isn't a permanent mode, I do not know, but if you're still working on some Valor ranks from previous weeks back in week 5, then be sure to jump into Clash to get those done. Next up, we're going to look at the Lost Sectors. Now these apply for Tuesday the 13th of July only and do rotate on a daily basis. Now the 1330 Legend Lost Sector can be found over on Europa this week, and this will be the Concealed Void, and this will be granting exotic gauntlets if you can complete this solo. So if you're still chasing down these gauntlets that were introduced with Beyond Light, be sure to head over to Europa to get your chance upon this week's weekly reset. Now as for the 1340 Master variant, you can find this over on the Moon, and this will be the K1 Revelation. Now this will be offering exotic boots if you can complete this solo, so if you're still chasing down a good roll on these new boots like I am, then be sure to head over to the Moon upon the weekly reset. Now as for the rest of Europa, the Eclipse Zone will rotate around to the Asterian Abyss, so if you're still working for the augments from Beyond Light, then be sure to head over there to get those done. Now as for the Empire Hunt, this will rotate around to the Warrior this week. Now if you can complete this on the Master difficulty of 1340, this will offer you an additional piece of Pinnacle reward. So if you're still getting those power levels in order to jump into the Master Vault of Glass, make sure to head over there to get an easy piece of Pinnacle gear. Now as for the Exo Challenge, this will be Simulation Agility, one of the easier Exo challenges in the rotation, and whether you can complete this solo or as part of a fire team, once again you get yourself an easy piece of Pinnacle loot. So that's a quick look at what some of the activities will be upon this week's weekly reset. Next up, we're going to look at the new seasonal challenges for week 10 of Season of the Splicer. There are in fact only 4 new seasonal challenges this week, Now one of them is called Split Focus. Now for this one we need to defeat combatants with melee, grenade and super abilities with bonus progress granted for combatants defeated either in Override or Expunge. And as you can see we need 200 grenade and melee ability kills and 100 super kills to complete that challenge. Next we have Threads of Light, and for this we need to defeat combatants in an Override wearing the Seasonal Splicer armor with bonus progress granted for each subsequent piece equipped. Additionally, depositing data will also grant additional progress. So with that armor equipped you need to defeat 1,000 combatants and deposit at least 100 pieces of data motes inside the Override activity. Next we have Explosive Calibration, and you need to calibrate explosive weapons being grenade launchers and rocket launchers with bonus progress granted against Guardians. And for this you need to defeat 100 combatants. And finally we have Elemental Gambit, and here you need to complete Gambit matches with each elemental subclass, and that's 2 matches for Arc, 2 matches for Void and 2 matches for Solar or Stasis, meaning that you have to play at least 6 games of Gambit in order to complete this seasonal challenge. Now as we said, this is the last week of seasonal challenges, with the final challenge being Master of All, and this is where you need to complete all the seasonal challenges within Season of the Splicer. Now if you can complete at least 75 of those seasonal challenges, you'll get yourself a large pile of Bright Dust. So if you only have a handful of challenges left, be sure to get those done to get your hands on some easy Bright Dust that you can spend over in the Eververse store. Now with the Eververse store in mind, we're going to take a look at what that has available for Bright Dust upon this week's weekly reset. Now first up we have the Power Rising Exotic emote from a previous Solstice of Hero event. If you want to pick this up and reveal the power from within, you can do so for 3,250 Bright Dust. Next we have the Predator Sun Shell, once again from a previous event. If you're collecting these exotic ghost shells, you can add this to your collection for 2,850 Bright Dust. Next we have the Golden Rider, a brand new Sparrow for this year's Solstice of Heroes event. If you're a big fan of the aesthetic from this year, you can add the Sparrow to your collection for 2,500 Bright Dust. Next we have the Oiled Algae, a very popular shader introduced from a previous Solstice of Hero event. If this was missing from your collection, you can add it to it for 300 Bright Dust. So that covers the featured page. Next we're going to move over to the Bright Dust store itself. First up we have the Breathe In exotic emote, once again from a previous Solstice of Hero event, one that I purchased with silver previously, but you can pick it up for Bright Dust for 3,250. Next we have the Shaded Shell. So once again, if you're still collecting these Solstice of Hero themed ghost shells, you can add this one to your collection for 2,850 Bright Dust. Next we have the Legacy 2, a very retro themed Sparrow, almost like an old wooden jet ski. So if you're a big fan of this, you can pick this up for 2,500 Bright Dust. Next we have the On Gilt Wings. This is one of the other Sparrows from last year's Solstice of Hero event. So if you missed out on it, you can pick it up now for 2,500 Bright Dust. Next we have the Sweltering Heat legendary emote. If you want to add this to your emote wheel, you can do so for 700 Bright Dust. And the penultimate item on offer is the BEACHHEADER 6. This is an exotic weapon ornament for the Merciless exotic fusion rifle. Merciless doesn't get used a great deal, but if you're still picking up the weapon ornaments for all your exotic weapons, you can add this to your collection for 1,250 Bright Dust. And the final item on offer is the Crab Projection. And if you want to pick this up, this will set you back 500 Bright Dust. So there we have it, a good look at this week in Destiny and everything that you can expect from the week ahead. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to check out one of the 2 videos you see here in these cards for further Destiny 2 content. I'm going to jump back into the game as always guys, and I will catch you all again very soon.